I don't do a lot of video game reviews, but I did want to talk about this game because we are in a Terminator phase. Right now, after watching all the moves, and the game just got me more immersed. I was not planning on making a video about the game at the time, so I didn't screen record any of my footage, so I'm using Gamer's Little Playground footage as a reference. It's an overall shorter game where you can complete the main story in around 6 to 9 hours. I did all the side quests and the main story and spent around 10 to 12 hours, also including time looting and just wandering around. It's what I would call a fake open world game. Each level puts you in a different location that has its own areas to explore, but they are either in circles or have short fenced areas that you cannot get past. I do really like games where you can have multiple endings because the choices and dialogue options you choose matter, and they will affect the final results. I think the game did an excellent job of making the Terminators scary. You can choose to either fight them head-on, attempt to stealth your way around, especially at the beginning. You do not engage with them unless you absolutely have to. Early on, there are several objectives to stealth around a huddle of Terminators, and I found myself genuinely on each trying to avoid them. I got caught a handful of times and would always get a jolt from the jump scare, because if they found you early on, you are pretty much dead. That being said, as you progress through the game, the Terminators become more and more manageable. Not easy necessarily, because they always do significant damage to you, but by the time you start getting laser weapons, you can take them on more confidently. I found myself scouring everything. There were some similarities to fall out in this regard, like collecting things like fabric and random bolts that you could craft later, but that was most similar with the lockpicking. If you are familiar with Fallout, the system is the same, but I noticed once you get to the medium and hard locks on Terminator, you put barely any pressure on the bobby pin and it breaks. Fallout made finding the sweet spot for the lock more difficult and increased chance of breakage a bit, but God, I cannot tell you how many bobby pins I want throw on a hard lock in Terminator, and bobby pins are not too hard to come by, and they also craft easily, so it was more of a tedious thing than an actual challenge. I didn't start getting into using explosives until a little later into the game, choosing instead to focus on upgrading my weapons durability and hacking, but by the time you even had access to something like a rocket launcher, you could have skill points to spare. Also worse, nothing in games like this. It's wise to upgrade the increased experience points perk early on. I was max level a level or two before the end of the game, and this was a good reason why the enemies you face all have different strengths and weakness, which I thought added to the fun of the game. There were different weapons and explosives that would affect enemies differently, and so you had some room to strategies or the best way to handle a group of different types of enemies. This way the game doesn't evolve into just running and shooting everything. To the game credit, even if you upgrade your toughness skill, all the enemies are deadly early on. I would utilize stealth a lot more and only engage with enemies if absolutely necessary, but by the end I found myself being much more aggressive and taking on enemies, so it was always wise to make sure I had cover and room to fall back if needed on one area of the game I found extremely frustrating was the Terminator knife. The knife allows you to stealth kill the Terminator from behind, but is one of use only item. I would constantly get behind the Terminator and attempt to take them out, but the option to kill them was always evasive. You had to be in a specific spot, a specific distance away for this to be successful. There were several times I would be behind Terminator right up to it and it would not work. I ended up getting so frustrated with it and that I stopped bothering with attempting to use it, which is a shame because I would have loved to have utilized that feature more.